The Substance programs by Allegorithmic were and still are the industry standard tools for texturing 3D models. However, in January 2019, Allegorithmic was acquired by Adobe. Their reactions to that were mixed. Some people feared that Adobe might just buy them to slowly let them rot. Regarding the pricing, people were afraid of an increasing expense in the software. Other people were hoping that it would be included in the Creative Cloud subscription. This way, many people would save money when they already had both the Creative Cloud and Substance subscription. And what about the general quality of the applications? Will it change? And if so, will it be a change to the better? Now, after enough time has passed, I will investigate this topic again to see what has actually changed. Well, the truth is, the softwares themselves didn't change too much apart from Adobe again shoving AI into it. What did change is the overall integration with other softwares. You were enabled to easily import assets from other Adobe programs. And this of course makes sense and is a good change. Also, when considering that Substance Beta was designed to feel like Photoshop, it makes sense that it became a part of Adobe. The software packages were also renamed and got new logos or icons. For example, Substance Painter became Adobe Substance 3D Painter. This kinda makes it sound like the title of a Kingdom Hearts game. The logos were redesigned to fit the general Adobe theme. While it makes sense, the so beloved simplification of everything is kinda depressing. But not only the Substance program changed. Adobe Illustrator now featured a Substance integration, so you can create textured 3D shapes. I don't know who asked for this feature, and I am skeptical about how helpful it actually is, but it can be seen as a sign that Adobe does care about the Substance programs. What actually did change a lot is the plan behind the pipeline of the Substance programs, especially because two new Substance applications have been developed, Substance Modeler and Substance Stager. Modeler is a voxel-based 3D modeling application, which means you don't use polygons to model. Voxel-based basically means that everything consists out of volumetric pixels. A popular example for something voxel-based would be Minecraft, just that the blocks are a lot smaller to enable you to use higher resolution and to create details and round shapes. When we're talking about how it feels using the software, it is pretty much comparable to Astroneer. This practice aims to feel more natural and less technical when doing 3D modeling. This is also backed up by the integration of virtual reality, which is being called out a lot in advertising descriptions of the software. However, the sole existence of this application tells us how Adobe wants to reimagine the pipeline. Instead of focusing only on texturing, like initially, Adobe wants the Substance applications to be able to develop a 3D asset from start to finish. This probably is also the reason why they developed Stager, because in Stager you set up and render 3D models. It also has a lot of preset models, and looking at them gives away what Adobe wants the software packages to be used for. 3D rendering for commercials. At least that's my theory, because most of these models are mock-ups for products. The rethinking of the pipeline to be a solution for everything you need makes a lot of sense on paper, but in reality it feels stupid. Why would I want to open another program every time I want to do another task? Why would I want to constantly export and import everything? And what if I'm working on preparing the render, but then decide to take a step back and change something about the model or texturing? This isn't intuitive at all, especially when I could use something like Blender, which is free and allows me to do every task in the same program. The pipeline makes a bit more sense if you think about it like that. A graphic designer with little experience in 3D wants a 3D render of a product. So they use Stager to create that render and then use it in Photoshop. That's completely valid, and opening another program for a task which your current program is completely incapable of makes complete sense. When I think about how the Substance programs are supposed to offer pipelines to each other, I don't see the reason why you have to open another program each time. But I have a theory on that, which I will explain a bit later in this video. For many people, pricing remains the most important topic, especially for freelancers, students, content creators and hobbyists. Because if you're working at a company, you won't be the one who pays for the licenses, so these people possibly don't care that much. I also won't talk about how the pricing for businesses have changed. Instead, I will only talk about how the prices have changed for individuals like you.
What do you mean, like you? I am a well-respected businessman. Screw you. I would take a ride to the golf course in my Tesla.
Oh no! Well, some people were disappointed because the substance programs were not included in the Creative Cloud subscription like some people expected. Instead, you have to pay for another subscription which features the substance programs. Surprisingly, the price of the monthly subscription didn't change from the original price when the software was still owned by Allegorithmic. And now it's time for my theory on why they've built this pipeline with Modular and Stager. Because if you want to use those programs, you have to choose a different subscription, which is $30 more expensive per month. So you're paying 150% more to get 2 more programs that aren't as fleshed out as the other programs. They also give you more credits for the generative AI and more downloadable assets per month, but I think we all know that's just to cover up the stupid pricing. I mean, look at the difference in the monthly pricing for that subscription when paying it annually. That's pathetic. My theory is they want to make the substance programs more expensive, but they can't, because they know that if they would have offered the same programs for a higher monthly price, people would be very upset. So instead, they'll act like you wouldn't get the full experience when choosing the less expensive subscription. Apart from that, they've killed one-time purchase licenses. Earlier, you could do a one-time purchase to get the substance applications and 12 months of updates. However, you can still buy the software on Steam, even Modular. Reviews on Steam are very mixed, because they increased the price of Painter for the 2024 version by $50. And during 2024, you've got 5 updates that weren't even that big. Keep in mind, this price gives you 12 months of free updates. So every time you want updates from another year, you have to pay this price again. So an increase of $50 is terrible. When the Substance apps were still owned by Allegorithmic, I was able to get a student version which gives you free access to the software for 12 months. After that, you would have to renew your license, which remains free if you're still a student. And as someone who claimed the student version in the past, I can tell you that the process was really simple and fast. I just had to take a photo of my student ID, fill in a form, and a few minutes later I could download the programs. And now that Adobe, a company I expect to be bigger and richer than Allegorithmic, acquired those products, the student licenses changed to the worse. You're not allowed anymore to use the software commercially when using the student license. That's kinda like stealing candy from a child. Like, if a student did manage to land a paid gig, Adobe would step in and tell them that's not okay, only because you're too afraid that people would abuse that system to get your software for free. I mean, they yearly give you all their personal details, so you could easily track them down, Adobe, which makes me think they're not afraid. They just hate the idea of you making money without them getting a share of that. Like, what kind of toxic relationship is that? And it gets even worse. Since the requirements to be eligible for student versions are higher than Allegorithmic's requirements used to be. I've also stumbled upon this Steam review of Substance Painter, which stated that they were eligible for the student license but didn't receive it. And the pure fact that they dropped a review means they have purchased it on Steam. So there really are students who have to pay a recently raised price for a software to be able to learn. Okay. Now what can you actually do? I think the best thing would be to choose an alternative. If you're a student, however, you might be forced to learn the industry standard, which makes alternatives less attractive. However, 3D Code has a 30 days trial, which remains usable after the trial expires with some limitations. I think the biggest limitation of it is not being able to use it commercially. 3D Code is also widely used inside the industry, while not being the industry standard. The full version is expensive though, but keeping in mind that you can use it for free for non-commercial use, hobbyists will have a good time. There also is Armor Paint, which is an open source program. It is very much not an industry standard, but you can get it for $19. Or you compile the binaries yourself for free if you know how. I don't know how to without a guide, so I sadly can't help you with that. While editing this video, I stumbled upon another alternative, which is called Instamet. I couldn't test it yet, but it seems to have a seamless Blender integration, and as long as your yearly revenue is less than $100,000, you can get the software for free. While the programs didn't change too much and there are some cool new gimmicks and integrations, Adobe once again showed us how terrible software pricing can be. While the new software modeler is a good application, it seems to miss the substance of substance. The most horrible thing in my opinion is that students appear to be the group of people that suffered the most from the changes. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I hope you have an enjoyable day, and if you want to support me, a subscription would be kind. See ya!